Previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs.
赤坂さん、もう夜もだいぶ更けました。これ以上はお互いしんどいんで、単刀直入に行きましょう。今の話は一体どういう意味ですか？
はい、今の話は私がHinamizawaを訪れた昭和53年6月に彼女から聞かされたことなんです。
なんですって？
Ushi couldn't believe what he was hearing. He was left speechless.
信じられない気持ちはわかります。それを聞いた当時の私も幼い少女の気まぐれな予言遊びくらいに思いました。ですが彼女は5年目に自分が殺されることを私に訴えました。それはつまり自分を助けてほしいという明白なサインだったと思うんです。ならば私はぜひ確かめたい。今でも彼女は本当に私の助けを必要としているのかを。
After hearing Akasaka say that, Ushi and the others fell silent and couldn't say anything. It was a completely implausible story. But Akasaka didn't appear to be drunk, and the look on his face made it clear he wasn't joking around. So, after exhaling a huge heavy breath that had been accumulating in his chest, Ushi turned his body toward Akasaka.
赤坂さん、私はね、今年で定年なんです。連続開始事件の1年目に殺されたおやっさんの仇をどうしても年内に取りたいんです。ですから私はどんな些細な情報でもだから一応確認させてください。今の話は冗談じゃないですよね。何かの冗談なら今のうちにそうだと言ってくださいよ。
私は真実しか言っていません。フルデリカは昭和53年6月に今のただ当時の私はそれを重要な話とは思わずそれを大石さんに伝えませんでした。それは申し訳なく思います。
こりゃお前さん、なんともとんでもない土産を持ってきてくれたもんだの。わしもちょいと面白くなってきたぞい。煙に巻かれたまま終わると思ってた怪事件が解けるのに立ち会えるとは思わなんだ。
しかし疑問もありますね。どうしてこんな重要な話を私だけに打ち明けたのでしょう。助けを求めるなら東京から出張してきた私ではなく地元警察のはずなのですが。
多分地元警察を信用しきれないところがあったのでしょう。私も泥臭い人間です。リカさんの信用を得ていなかったのかもしれない。それに沖宮署には S 号の駅のかかった連中も少なからず潜んでいます。
つまり東京から来た私が一番信用できたということですね。
悔しいですがそういうことになるでしょうな。
だとしたら大石さん、この件他にはない道に。
もちろんですとも。とにかく明日Hinamizawaでリカさんに接触して確かめていただけますか？話はそれからです。
間宮里奈が殺されたそうです。今仏が上がったって。
I immediately gasped and couldn't breathe. Even though we put in so much effort to keep her alive and prevent Teppei from moving here from Okinomiya? Yeah, now that you mention it. Oh dear, that means Teppei's gonna be moving back. Not good.
まさか。
先に言いますが、園崎は違います。葛西は奴を脅しましたが、頃合いを見て別の店に移すつもりだったそうで、手は出してません。
Shion was able to foresee my suspicions and spoke in a low voice like she was giving me a stern reminder. Then, who on earth?
ケイちゃん、そんなことよりも聡子です。リカちゃまは家ですか？
いや、
今日は綿流しの打ち合わせだから集会場のはずだ。電話番号は？
わかります。すぐに。
As soon as Shion said that, she rushed back toward the coat closet to make a phone call. There were quite a few customers still in the store, but she paid them no mind. Sadako. Oh no, has she already been taken away?
すまない。
Oh, hey! Fancy running into you here, Akasaka. Just then, a man walked over to me from the carryout line near the entrance. Then he regretfully looked at me while raising his hands to apologize for his rudeness, then opened his mouth to ask a question.
今、君たち、リカちゃんって。
リカ？私、今日からこっちの家で暮らそうと思いますの。
That song again. Same words I'd heard in past worlds. Words that I never wanted to hear again came out of Sadako's mouth.
私のおじさんが帰ってきましたの。それでこっちの家で一緒に暮らそうって話になりまして。それは聡子の本心なのですか？鉄平と住むことをあなたが望んだのですか？でもどうしようもありませんわ。リカの家へ帰っても連れ戻されるだけですもの。リカに迷惑がかかってしまいますわ。
She had a sad smile of resignation. Just like a year ago, this was the Sadako of 1982, and the same Sadako I saw in the previous world. The same scenes, the same conversations were repeating over and over like a broken record. The cheerful Sadako that I was living with until just yesterday was already gone. After this, Sadako would be terribly abused by her uncle. Still, it's possible to save her and escape this crisis with Keiichi's help. So, I'll fight! Teppei wildly thrust me away and reached for his eyes. Then he collapsed to the ground, uttering loud noises of a runny nose and filthy tears dribbling down his bright red face. I rushed over to Teppei, grabbed him by his slimy hair, and sprayed even more of the pepper spray into his eyes. Oh, pepper spray! Delicious! Teppei desperately tried to close his eyes, but the spray went up his nose too, irritating his mucous membranes and forcing disgusting tears and snot to come running out. The sneezing and pain were so bad he couldn't even lift his head. The catharsis I'm feeling right now from this is just astronomical.
思い出して。手を伸ばすのは助けを求めることじゃない。一緒に戦うこと。
At last. Yes, Sako finally reached a decision. Hell yeah! Unleash the traps! She raised her head, and then bit the arm of the man who was holding her. And when the man loosened his grip in pain, she rushed toward Teppei, who was surrounding Keiichi, and barreled into him with her entire body. Sako quickly got back on her feet and stared face to face at Teppei, who was getting upset about the unexpected counterattack. The light that her eyes had lost until a moment ago had finally returned, and it was shining bright.
お前なんかに負けない。私はお前なんかに負けない。お前なんか大嫌いだ。絶対に負けてたまるか。じゃとら。弱い犬ほどよく吠えると言いますが、まさに典型ですわね、おじさまは。やかましいわっから。こん恩知らずが。親殺しの分際で。
Oh. Sako completely froze up the moment she heard that. Oh no. That's the one thing that should absolutely never be said.
偉そうなこと言える立場か。てめえな、金目当てに親を川に突き落としたんだろうが。
I used every last ounce of my strength to rise to my feet and lunge towards Teppei, but my pathetically weak advance ended with me being thrust away and rolling to the ground near Sadako. And behind my battered body, Sako was crouched down, shivering and clutching her head. I endured the pain and desperately rushed over to Sadako to hug her.
私は聡子ダメ、思い出してはあんたの手柄ね。
When I raised my head, I noticed Teppei's hideous form looking down at us.
死にさらせや。
そこまでだ、北条鉄平。
Just then, for a moment, I thought the voice I heard was a hallucination. No way. It can't be. It's completely unreasonable to expect Akasaka! That he would come to a place like this?
Satoko!
I heard Shion cry out, and then she rushed over to my side to embrace Sadako. But more importantly, I had to confirm that voice was still lingering in my ears. So I looked up.
Rika-chan!
And looking back in that direction, he was rushing toward me. It can't be. Can I really believe this? I can't let this be an illusion. As I knelt there like that, he held me in his chest, against his chest with his big arms to protect me.
Akasaka.
助けに来たよ。リカちゃん、大丈夫か。
大丈夫ですか、ケイチ。
ああ、これくらいはへでもないぜ。
Keiichi forced a smile while wiping the blood from his lips. After seeing that strong, encouraging look on his face, I was finally able to smile. But that same moment...
サトコ？どうしたの？サトコ！
Oh no. Shion's tense shout brought me back to my senses. When I looked that way, Shion was supporting Sadako's head in her arms, while she muttered something over and over. She was trembling and shaking her head repeatedly, with a vacant look in her eyes.
違う。私じゃない。私は何も。サトコ？サトコ、しっかりして。サトコ！
ちょうどいいわ。行きがけのダチンじゃ。おとなしくせんね。
あら、私をどうするつもり？
決まってんね。お前は札から逃げおせるまでの人質じゃ。
つくづく生まれの卑しいやつってのは考えることまで浅ましいってことね。
What's with this woman? Even though I was standing right in front of her holding a huge knife, she didn't budge. In fact, her icy smile seemed to get even colder, as she carefully stared at me with her eyes open wide, walking up to me in slow motion like she was just taking a barefoot stroll. Yes, like a carnivore peeling back its fangs and stretching out its nails. A cruel, menacing atmosphere seemed to leak from her entire body. Am I being threatened?
止まらんね。これが目に入る。
入らないわね、そんな大きなもの。
Uh-oh.
この鉛玉ならあなたの目の中には入るかもね。試してあげましょうか。あら、もう終わり？ただの威嚇射撃なのに勝手に気絶しちゃって。楽には死なせてあげないわよ。不愉快な 思い出させやがって。
And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. So, Teppei's dead? Or about to be dead? All is well with the world. At least for now. I'm sure that will change in very short order, but for now at least, we can still enjoy that particular bit of catharsis, which I will for as long as humanly possible. Let's get into today's shenanigans, shall we?
もう心配いりません。容体は安定しましたよ。
Oh yeah, that's right. Sako ended up remembering something that she shouldn't have. Irie removed a stethoscope from his ears while looking back at us with a smile. I was finally able to release the tension accumulating inside me and collapsed on the spot.
Rika-chan!
Rika-chama!
Keiichi and Shion, who were standing on opposite sides of me, knelt down at almost the exact same time to check on me. I tried to show them a smile, but there was no hiding the dense sweat spread all across my face.
他にベッドは？
隣の診察室にあります。こちらです。
On a verbal cue, Keiichi scooped up my body. Then, after leaving Irie's exam room, he laid me down on bed in the exam room next door, and Akasaka gently laid a comforter down on me.
監督、リカちゃんの怪我の具合は？レントゲンは取りました。骨に異常がなかったのがせめてもの救いです。しかし、あの鉄平という男はこんな小さな女の子に容赦なく暴力を振るうなんて。
僕が逃げたら聡子に向いていたのです。代わってあげられてよかったのですよ。
I put a hand on Irie's tightly clenching fist as I said that, and gave him a beaming bright smile. He looked a bit embarrassed and tried to adjust his glasses when he saw that, then spoke apologetically.
聡子ちゃんが我慢して言わなかった分、私は彼女の境遇を過小評価していました。正直ここまでとは。もしも放置していたらと考えると恐ろしくて体に震えが走ります。
Indeed, it was terrifying. Sako suffered violence in the previous worlds, but we were always looking at it from a distance, so we never knew just how severe it was. So all I could do was watch as she was broken, unable to help her. And thinking about it back then, she always acted like this pain was no big deal.
それで鉄平はあの後どうなりました？
沖宮署の大石さんがかなりの人数で行方を追ってくれているそうです。北条家を家宅捜索したところ、非合法の薬物も多数発見できたようなので、傷害以外の余罪でもしょっぴいてみせるって息巻いてましたから。
できればもっと早く尻尾掴んで捕まえてもらいたかったけどな。
I felt the same way, but I'm sure Ushi has some lingering desire to let him keep swimming, on the suspicion that Teppei will be the target of the curse at this year's Watanagashi, especially after Rina's murder, so they might think it's better to close their eyes to these lesser crimes and avoid arresting him. And yet, why are they taking action here? It's a good turn of events, of course, but it's a little surprising.
リカちゃん、こんな状況だけどいいかな？
Akasaka moved his mouth close to my ear and whispered that to me. When I heard that, I faintly nodded to him and used my arms to sit upright. My head still hurt a little, but I wasn't about to say it.
リカちゃま、まだ寝ていても。
今日高野は休みなのですか？
え、ああ、もう帰られましたね。それが？
僕は大丈夫なのです。それよりも聡子の様子を見てきてほしいのです。一人ぼっちだとかわいそうです。
わかりました。シオンさん、行きましょうか。
If Takano is out, then there's nobody looking after Sadako at the moment. With that in mind, Yurie gently beckoned Shion and left the exam room. Shion looked painfully reluctant as she followed behind him. Akasaka, Keiichi, and I were the only ones left in the room.
Koro.
Him being me, is gonna be your partner in crime here, my man.
ケイイチは僕の協力者なのです。浮気相手なのですよ、ニパー。
浮気って。あ、まだ自己紹介してませんでしたね。前原圭一です。
Keiichi lightly bowed his head as he said that. After a brief glance at that, Akasaka turned back toward me. I still silently nodded to him, and then he turned back toward Keiichi and answered him while extending a large hand out to him.
警視庁公安の赤坂です。ちょっと待ってもらえるかい？
はい。
Akasaka stood up as he said that, then pulled something resembling a black walkie-talkie out of his breast pocket and held it up to the corners of the room. And after checking all four corners, he set a chair in front of the door and came back this way.
一体何を？
申し訳ない。この部屋が盗聴されてるかどうか、一応調べておこうと思って。職業柄、一筋縄ではいかない相手とばかりやり合ってきたもんでね。
Akasaka shrugged his shoulders and put the black object away. So he has a wiretap detector on hand right now, huh?
リカちゃんの協力者ということだから信用して話す。ただこれからの話は誰にも内密にしておいてほしい。いいかな？
Akasaka set a folding chair down right in front of Keiichi's, so close that their knees were practically touching, then turned to him. He must have endured extreme situations over the last 5 years to make him this dauntless. Keiichi looked strained by that pressure, of course, but immediately gave him a powerful nod.
まずはそうだな。リカちゃんと私が知り合った馴れ初めの話からしないといけないかな。
奥さんに言いつけてやるのですよ。
I spoke up without thinking, but immediately started to regret it. Akasaka's wife was fine in the previous world, but what happened in this world? However...
そうだな。命の恩人とはいえ、今度は私が刺さるそうだ。
Akasaka's tearful laugh completely blew my unease away. Thank goodness. I guess she's safe in this world too. Then Akasaka explained to Keiichi how the two of us met 5 years ago. Akasaka was sent to Hinamizawa by the Public Security Division of the Metropolitan Police Department during the dam opposition movement, in an effort to determine the whereabouts of the kidnapped grandson of the Minister of Construction. Then, Akasaka was able to rescue the minister's grandson from the kidnappers. And afterwards, I confessed some of the truth out to him. It was not a short story, even in summary, but Keiichi listened all the way until the end with an earnest expression on his face.
それで、赤坂、あなたはどうしてこのひなみ沢にまた来てくれたのですか？
休暇だよ。このひなみ沢を数日観光した後は、和倉温泉に向かって夫婦水入らずでのんびりする予定だった。だけどその前にリカちゃん、一つだけ教えてほしい。
何をですか？
あの時君は私に助けを求めてくれた。今でもそれは間に合うだろうか？私は君の力になることができるだろうか？
ここは人の命を何とも思わない連中でいっぱいです。これを伝えても何も変わらないかもしれないけど、でも死という月を映す水面をかき消すためなら小石を投じることも
あるかもしれない。
I had no idea what she was trying to say. It's just, I had to listen to every word with my body and soul. Or at least that's what I thought.
そしてさらに翌年の昭和58年の6月の今日、あるいはその数日後か、私がすべての死が予定調和なら最後の死もまた予定のうちなのでしょうか。でもならばこれは一体誰の予定なの？
This village is full of murderers and people who have no regard for human life. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths up until 1982 would be the work of somebody in the village. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths would occur were at the discretion of those who controlled the village. But that didn't explain what would happen in 1983. There was no way that the last death would fit within with anybody's plans. They had no regard for human life. They would use every means at their disposal to meet their goals. But their goals were at odds with the last death. That's why the last death was unrelated to them. But that last death would definitely, most likely, probably, without question, happen. Probably, definitely, I dare say. The last death would be a merciful one. A handkerchief or something being placed over their mouth, making them lose consciousness, never to wake up again. Exactly whose plan was that?
私は幸せに生きたい。望みはそれだけ。大好きな友人たちに囲まれて楽しく日々を過ごしたい。それだけなの。それ以上の何も望んでいないの。死にたくない。
The girl, stoic as ever, let those last words slip in the end. However, Akasaka didn't understand the meaning of her words back then. No, he didn't want to understand. To be perfectly honest, they seemed like nonsensical childish ramblings. And he was far more concerned about his own injuries, his wife Yukie, and finding a way to put an end to the kidnapping. He was simply a narrow-minded man who couldn't see beyond his own problems. However, now things were different. He's grown since then, and he's changed. Because thanks to Rika's advice, he was able to avoid losing what was most precious to him. That day, 5 years ago, something bad will happen if you don't go back to Tokyo. The night that Akasaka heard Rika's ominous prophecy, he immediately thought of his wife, who was in the hospital in preparation for childbirth. She could be in some sort of danger. He didn't really believe it, but when he prayed to God for her safe delivery, he couldn't simply ignore it. Akasaka was worried about it, so he called the hospital at some point in the middle of the investigation. And he shuddered just thinking about what he heard from the nurse back then.
屋上なんでそんなところに？
ああ、奥さんには教えたこと内緒にしててくださいね。なんでも遠くにお出かけになっているご主人に頑張れって声を送っているんだそうです。毎日お一人で階段を登ってそうするのが日課なんだっておっしゃっていましたよ。
Akasaka felt a cold, mysterious atmosphere around him that was more frightening than joyful. He couldn't laugh it off like it was mere child's play. He seemed truly grateful to have his wife's pure feelings supporting him all this time. However, after that, the nurse mentioned the stairs. Simply maintaining her balance while walking for her heavy body was a difficult enough exercise. But going up and down the stairs was something that should never be done at that stage of pregnancy. And to make it worse, she was doing it alone? Even if the chances are slim, If she were to fall, who on earth would help her? A disgusting mental image emerged in the back of Akasaka's mind, of a nurse calling out to Yukie and then going out to find her. The tiles on the stairs are especially slippery when wearing the sandals provided to the hospital patients. In fact, one time when he went there to meet her, he saw an old man nearly lose his footing. If she were to inadvertently slip and fall, just like that old man, any impact on a pregnant woman's body is dangerous, and not just for the child in the womb, but for the mother too. And Yukie was never one to stand perfectly still. Even if she had a fever, she wouldn't hesitate to say that doing housework calmed her down. So Akasaka.
どうしたんですか、あなた。
ユキエ、頼む。動きたい気持ちはわかるが、戻るまでおとなしくしていてほしい。一生のお願いだ。
一生って大げさですね。ひょっとして看護師さんから何か聞いたんですか？恥ずかしいです。
君の気持ちは本当に嬉しい。心の底から君にはいつも感謝しているんだ。本当に私には過ぎた妻だと。
急にどうしたんです？何かあったんですか、あなた。
だから頼む。君に万一のことがあったら、私は本気で生きていく力を失ってしまうだろう。いつまでも君とはずっと温かな家庭を築いていきたいんだ。心配しすぎだと笑われるかもしれない。だけど私は
あなた。
Before he realized it, Akasaka began mumbling his words like they were mixed with tears. For some reason, he was feeling especially sad, but he didn't know why. Still, he wanted to tell her. He couldn't help but keep going. He had just imagined the worst possible future, and it made him feel genuine sorrow, like he had tasted this in another time.
わかりました、あなた。私こそごめんなさい。自分の体を気遣うことを忘れていて、あなたが戻るまではおとなしくしていますね。
ありがとう。
Thank God she did.
いえ、あなたのお気持ち、本当に嬉しいです。あなたこそどうかご無事で戻ってきてくださいね。
And that concern, in a sense, it was what led to the best result. When Akasaka called a few days later, she heard there was an accident where a loose tile caused someone to slip and fall down the stairs. A janitor was seriously injured. And that was the exact same stairwell Yukie used when going up to the rooftop. If he hadn't taken the girl's advice and called Yukie, he was awestruck and couldn't believe it. It didn't take much thought to see that is the worst possible future. It was all thanks to Rika Furude's miraculous prophecy.
そして君の予言通り、この村に毎年たたりを語る開始事件が起こったと聞いた。君が私に教えてくれたことは全て事実だった。そして君は最後に自分は今年殺されると言っていた。
赤坂。
確かに私にとって妻と娘は何よりも大切なものだ。だがそれは君がいてくれたからこそ失わずに済んだものなんだ。なのに二人を助けてくれた君が不幸に遭うなんて私は絶対に認めない。だから私が今手にしているこの時間とこの力。
赤坂。
本当に長いこと忘れていた気がする。でもようやく思い出したよ。長いこと待たせてすまなかったね。
Tears came spilling out, non-stop, and they fell down to the ground. Such an encouraging speech. The words I always wanted to hear from Akasaka, that I had finally given up on after such a long time.
本当に長いこと待たせやがったです。そしてこんな最後の最後の世界で本当に都合よく帰ってきやがったのです。赤坂。
私は無条件で君の味方だ。君のどんな不思議な話も信じるよ。そして君の命を狙うという敵を必ず打ち砕いてみせる。
赤坂。
Hearing that, even though I thought that a world without Hanyu meant that the worst possible fate had come, his words managed to pierce right through it. I'm sure even Akasaka doesn't know just how much this fills my heart with joy, gratitude, and hope. But I wanted to tell him in the intense depth of my feelings. And I wanted to tell Keiichi, who was quietly sitting beside him, watching over me with a smile on his face. I don't see a smile. Right now, I have such powerful allies. So there's no reason to feel depressed. No, I can't feel depressed. I'll grab hold of the future, for their sake too. I'm certain of it.
そろそろ潮時だな。
I mustered my determination. I carefully told Keiichi and Akasaka everything I knew about Takano and this Tokyo organization. And after finishing the explanation, Akasaka glanced back at the door behind him. Quite a lot of time had passed. Irie and Shion would be quite surprised to walk in on this.
それでリカちゃん、君は高野美代が怪しいと睨んでいるわけだね。
疑っているというよりも確信なんだろう、リカちゃん。
I nodded with all my strength to confirm Keiichi's interjection. Akasaka seemed dubious of that assertion and considered it for a moment, but my anxiety was soon dispelled by Akasaka's smile. How reassuring. I have two allies who would believe such a nonsensical story without any reservations.
となると、この診療所のあの入江って医師からどう話を聞き出すかだな。Hinamizawa症候群の研究の規模と資金から見ても、高野はトカゲの尻尾だ。東京という組織が何を企んでいるのかを突き止めない以上、根元を調べて立たなければ別のやつが来てリカちゃんを消そうと考えるかもしれない。
確かにこのたたりは誰の意図かは分かりませんが、無意識にこの村の人々を支配しようとする悪意があると思います。それが東京だとしても、どういう意図で今年のたたりを引き起こそうとしているのか、それが分からなければ意味がない。
Between Akasaka's experience and Keiichi's intuition, they did their best to uncover the mystery. Having felt like I was tackling this all alone the whole time, I was grateful to see this.
ともかくまだまだ情報が必要だ。引き続き調査してみるから、前原君とリカちゃんも何か情報を手に入れたら私に教えてくれるかい？
わかりました。任せてください。
赤坂、他にも東京との連絡係を務めているTomitakeの協力も必要です。特に彼の場合はこのままだと今度の綿流しの晩に高野の手で殺されてしまうのです。
それはどうして？
わからないのです。でもこの殺人にこそ高野の黒い思惑が潜んでいるように思えるのです。
だとしたら今度こそ助けなきゃいけないよな。マミやリナのようにしくじったらもう目も当てられなくなる。
そうなのです。でも
Be that as it may, I doubt that Tomitake would take the two of them seriously. In the worst case scenario, there's even a chance he could leak information to Takano. The most ideal scenario would be for him to discover the details of his conspiracy on his own. So, what can we do to make that happen?
なら、リカちゃん、ちょっと考えたんだけど、こういう手はどうだ？
それは、赤坂、本当にそれで大丈夫なのですか？
I immediately gasped at Akasaka's astonishing suggestion. Right beside me, Keiichi's eyes were open wide in shock. I'm sure I'm making the same face.
でもそんなことをすれば、一緒に来ている奥さんだって。
大丈夫。妻と娘は知り合いに警護の協力を頼んで、訳を話して東京に返すよ。そのまま実家に行かせて、公安の身辺保護プログラムを発動させるから問題ない。
赤坂、それでもあなたが危険に。
それに、さっきも言ったけど、リカちゃん、君は妻の命の恩人だ。君の言葉がなければ、私は妻も娘さえ失っていたかもしれない。だから今度は私が君に恩返しをする番だ。
You're such a good friend, Akasaka. Where would I be without you?
信用してほしい。
赤坂。
His eyes were shining bright and full of determination. Feeling encouraged by those eyes, I decided to accept his proposal. Failure is not an option. Any misstep will put not just myself at risk, but Akasaka as well. But I've already decided. I'm not going to hesitate any longer. I'll never give up. I'm going to grab hold of my happiness, no matter what it takes. I'm certain of it. The night was already upon us. The bruises on my arms and legs still hurt, but not enough to keep me from standing. In this condition, I'll probably still be able to handle my Watanagashi performance 3 days from now. The villagers rushed to the clinic as soon as they heard the story. They were so worried and upset that they had completely forgotten they were in a hospital and started making a huge commotion. So Rika and Keiichi were having trouble calming them down. Apparently, they're going to head out of the village tomorrow to search for Teppei. I can't imagine what they might do to him before handing him over to the police. Probably something wholly unpleasant and very well deserved. When I saw that, I decided to ask Keiichiro and the others to focus on protecting Sadako instead. I could see the same mixed feelings on everyone's faces, but Keiichi and Shion turned to them and pressed for an answer. When people heard Rika-chan was seriously injured, so how many people ran over to check on her? She was very happy to see that, but she wanted everyone to consider this. If Rika-chan hadn't covered for her, Sadako would have been the one to suffer those injuries. I don't want anyone to think it would be more acceptable for Sadako to have been the one suffering this pain. If everyone was just a little more considerate and courageous, Rika-chan wouldn't have been seriously hurt. As much as all of you respect and cherish Rika-chan, did none of you ever consider that possibility? Shame these bitches! Shame! Shame! Shame is good for you. We need more of it in this world. The elders couldn't say anything back. After once again witnessing a tragedy that they turned a blind eye to, all they could do was hang their heads in shame. This makes me happy. They have indeed been shamed. It'll still be difficult to win their support without Oryu's favor, but if they keep at it like this, Sadako should be able to gain an environment as comfortable as the previous world. And speaking of her, I can only pray that she doesn't remember that memory when she regains consciousness. For now, I'll have to forget about Sadako. I need to do something about my own situation.
やあ、リカちゃん。
Hello there, Tomitake.
よく来たのです。ミパー。
Tomitake had just arrived and was climbing the stone steps in front of the shrine. Based on the camera in his hand and the bag on his shoulder, I could tell he had come directly from the Irie clinic. Just before leaving the clinic, I told Irie that I wanted to meet up with Tomitake.
僕に話ってことだけど、一体どうしたの？
富竹2号について何か情報をつかんでいますか？
Tomitake Mark II, huh? I opened the conversation by cutting straight to the main subject.
なんだよそれ。
Sure enough, Tomitake opened his eyes wide and tilted his head, unable to grasp the meaning of what I said. At any rate, the name Tomitake Mark II doesn't seem to have gone through to him. That's a little disappointing.
富竹2号？それは一体何のことだい？
最近沖宮署に入った刑事のことです。聞いていませんか？
沖宮の刑事。リカちゃん、それをどこで？
Tomitake was still smiling, but his eyes were carefully fixated on me. The mountain dogs have personnel within Okinomiya Station, so it seemed perfectly natural for him to know about it, but I guess he was surprised to discover that I knew about it. His expression told me that he couldn't figure out my true intentions.
赤坂は僕のお友達なのです。5年前にここに来た時に仲良しになったのですよ。
え？ああ、そういう意味か。しかし5年前とはずいぶん前の話だな。よく覚えてたね。
もちろんなのです。だって大臣の孫が誘拐された時にここに来ましたから。
Tomitake's expression completely changed. Of course, he likely already knew about the incident 5 years ago, but he probably had no idea that the detective here now was the same detective from back then.
ということは、あの刑事。
警視庁の公安です。5年前にも大臣の孫を探しに来ましたが、今回は何を探しに来たのでしょうね。
The smile on Tomitake's face had vanished without a trace. He began looking more like an intrepid intelligence agent. In his head, he's probably thinking about ways to allocate staff for future investigations to address this situation.
富竹、東京の動きは今どうなっていますか？
どうって？いや、別におかしなこともなく通常通りだけど。
ちょっとだけ彼の話に出ていたのですが、東京から流入している入江機関への資金の流れに疑問を持ったそうなのです。この明細について一度確認してもらいたいのです。
それはまあ数日中にでも可能だけど、一体どうして？
僕たちへの給付が高野と入江に流れてるそうなのです。最近の支払い額が減っていたのでおかしいと思っていたのですよ。
そんなバカな。
Tomitake unpleasantly frowned when he heard that. One of Tomitake's responsibilities is to oversee how the funds are being used. But he was probably leaving them mostly alone thanks to their cordial relationship. It wasn't clear if he felt betrayed or couldn't believe it, but he was clearly very confused.
わかった。とにかく本当だったら大変だ。調べてみるよ。
あ、富竹、一つお願いなのです。
Tomitake had cut off the conversation and was about to head out, so I couldn't help but call out to stop him. And when he dubiously tilted his head upon hearing me say request, I held my hands together and continued.
お願いなのです。この話は 入江と高野には秘密にしておいてもらいたいのですよ。
どうして？
僕たちは入江と高野にとてもよくしてもらっているのです。まだ信じられないし、ひょっとしたらただの勘違いかもしれません。だからこんなことで二人に嫌な思いをさせたくないのです。
わかった。確かにお金の勘違いでギスギスした雰囲気になるのは嫌だからね。安心して。リカちゃんのそれが判明したら真っ先に知らせるよ。
ありがとうなのです。よろしくお願いしますのです。
I deeply bowed to him. When Tomitake saw this, his mood seemed to soften and he spoke with a nice smile on his face.
任せて。それよりリカちゃん、祭りの奉納は大丈夫かい？入江先生からもいろいろ聞いてるけど。
大丈夫なのです。ちゃんと最後までこなして富武にいい絵を提供してみせるのですよ。みぱー。
それは楽しみだ。当日は最前列でバッチリこのカメラに収めるから頑張ってくれよ。じゃ。
Tomitake waved his hand with a cheerful smile on his face as he descended the stone steps. I sat down in front of the offering box. Keeping lies straight is far more exhausting than telling the truth. But there's no avoiding it. Otherwise, Tomitake would simply trust Takano and the others, with no desire to investigate them. The first step is to make Tomitake suspicious of Takano. Then, if he's able to arrive at the truth as part of this charade, Tomitake will prove advantageous in the future, and it might even increase his chances of survival. Build suspicion from everyday doubts. That's what Akasaka told me. Wise words. Tomitake had consulted with Irie about the financial situation several times in the past. I wanted to properly cooperate with Tomitake, but it would take far too much time to persuade him, and I feel sorry every time I remember that. I feel guilty. It's so easy to pass on animosity by making someone suspect betrayal, and that's what Tomitake is feeling right now.
Tomitake, Irie, 嘘をついてごめんなさいなのです。
We're lying for the greater good! I'm sure they'll understand. Eventually. Portraying a nice, selfless guy like Irie as some greedy miser really does make my heart ache. But I can't dwell on how it looks. Tomitake will die on the night of Watanagashi unless he learns about his life-threatening situation soon. I looked up at the sky. A beautiful full moon. The shrine grounds and the dark sky were illuminated by the dim light, bathing the surrounding area in a mysterious atmosphere. Will I be able to see a moon this beautiful in the future? And Hanyu. Honestly, where did that girl disappear to? The moon wasn't going to answer that. I lingered there for a while, leaning back against the offering box and pouring the thoughts in my heart toward the sky. Yeah, seriously, I'd like to know where the hell Hanyu disappeared to myself. We've been hearing her on and off. Maybe she's hiding in a bush nearby or something.
まだ目が覚めませんか?
The coach sighed and shook his head, then turned his gaze downward. I could see Sako sleeping in the bed next to him, with a calm look on her face. For the past few days, it had become a daily routine to visit the clinic on the way home from school to check on Sadako. But Sadako never woke up. All we could do was hold her hand, clean her body, and tell her about the things that happened at school, while she continued sleeping.
はい、着替え。
シオンもあんまり無理しちゃダメだよ。この部屋に泊まり込むのはいいけど、せめて睡眠はちゃんととっておかないとさ。大丈夫ですよ。ちゃんと適度に自制してますから。ただ、サトコが起きたら一番にからかってやろうとか考えたら、なかなか寝つけなくって。てへ。
Shion shrugged her shoulders with a wry smile on her face as she said that. Her hair was a bit haggard, and there were dark circles around her eyes. Even though she was skipping school, all the work preparing the Angel Mort's stall shrine at the shrine, combined to the multiple round-trip visits to the clinic, must have been both physically and mentally exhausting. Sure sounds like it. Looking more closely, the coach seemed rather tired as well. According to Shion, he'd been working day and night and taking blood tests to make sure Sadako's condition was improving. He was doing all this on top of his daily workload, so I really admired his dedication.
残念だね。せっかく今日のお祭りはみんなで大騒ぎできると思ってたのに。
Reina's shoulders drooped. Then, Rika-chan grabbed her hand and said Nipa with a smile on her face.
お祭りは来年にもあるのです。ここで僕たちが暗い顔をしていたら、起きた時にサトコがきっと気にすると思うのですよ。リカちゃん。
そうだな。リカちゃんの言う通りだ。今日の祭りは盛大に騒いで楽しんで、サトコには手土産片手に報告。これで行こうぜ。
よし、ケイちゃんのそれ乗った。
Bring her a big stuffed animal or something.
シオン、あんたも今日は主役でしょ。園崎の系列店の晴れ舞台なんだから、しょぼい顔見せてたら承知しないよ。誰がしょぼいですか。お姉じゃあるまいし。はあ、まあケイちゃんの言うことにも一理ありますね。それじゃあケイちゃん、覚悟してくださいよ。ぼやぼやしてっとそっちの叩き売りオークションのお客全部かっさらっちゃいますからね。
おう、望むところだぜ。そっちこそ後で吠え面書くなよ。
ケイイチくんとしーちゃんの一騎打ちだね。どっちが勝つんだろう、太郎。
あ、私は問答無用でケイちゃんだから。シオンの店なんか閑古鳥鳴いて赤字になっちゃえってか。
Mion, aren't you totally contradicting what you said earlier? Don't tell her. Let her act smug.
それじゃあ、私はここでサトコちゃんを見ていますね。もし目を覚ましたら、神社の祭り本部に電話をかけますから。
よろしく頼みますね、監督。とりあえず私を呼び出すときは、園崎姉妹の綺麗な方って言ってくれたらマッハで出ますので。あ、バッチー方はお姉ってことで。誰がバッチーだ。私は生ゴミが。
むしろ燃えないゴミと呼んであげてください。
Oh, Rika. You always have the best cutting remarks.
リカちゃん、みーちゃんは環境に優しいんだよ。
And you, Reina, always know how to add fuel to the fire. Reina, you're following the wrong lead. I don't know. I think she's following the right one personally. We left Coach to look after her and head to the festival in high spirits. It's just as Rika-chan said. There really isn't much we can accomplish by watching over Sadako. And Sadako will be hurt to learn that she was the reason we couldn't enjoy the festival. In which case, it would be better to make a bunch of fun memories and tell her all about it after she wakes up. She'll have so much fun just listening to our stories that she won't be able to wait for watching Nagashi next year. Yup, here we go. What the Nagashi! The shrine grounds were already extremely crowded. Tons of people were walking around the shops, dressed in yukatas and plain clothes. There were young people, old folks, couples, families, and close groups of friends. And in the middle of all that... Huh? That girl looks familiar.
Oh? Oi! Natsumi-chan!
Natsumi? Mion seemed to notice her too, because she was exaggeratedly waving at the girl. She looked back when she heard that call and ran over, a huge smile on her face.
Mion-chan, konbanwa!
Well, holy shit, it is Natsumi. Fancy seeing you here.
やっぱり会えたよ。
よく来たね、夏美ちゃん。今日は家族で？
Good question. Are you with your family today? Natsumi waved her arms toward a group of people standing behind her. Young and old, men and women. Probably her relatives. The mother-like woman cheerfully turned back this way and said, We'll go on ahead. Well, holy shit! Your mother is actually having a good time? Here in Hinamizawa? I'm shocked. Shocked, I say. This girl is Natsumi Kimiyoshi-chan. She's a relative of Mayor Kimiyoshi, and Mion once introduced me to her when we met at 7th Mart. She mentioned back then that she wanted to come back for Watanagashi, and apparently she made good on that.
あれ？ミオンちゃんの隣って、もしかして。
夏美って君吉の？久しぶりですね。
じゃあやっぱりシオンちゃん？どうしたの？ひなみ沢に戻ったの？
いや、実はいろいろありまして、お姉が一人だと寂しいって泣くので仕方なく。嘘を言うな、嘘。
Stop being yourself, Shion.
二人とも昔と同じ。
Shion was teasing Natsumi-chan, and I'm pretty sure she's teasing Mion, not Natsumi. Shion was teasing Natsumi-chan, and Mion was getting all worked up. Natsumi-chan let out an amused laugh, and seemed to be feeling nostalgic as she watched it play out.
なあ、俺思ったんだが、ここだと普通の女の子の方が浮いて見えるよな。
Okay, Keiichi. If there is one thing I can describe Natsumi as, it's definitely not normal. If only you knew. She's a good girl at heart, though, to be fair.
それはレナも普通じゃないってことかな？かな？
Then again, to be extra fair, none of you guys are normal people either.
いかんいかん。ヘナ、カゴ引っかが。
みんなお待たせしたのです。あ、リカちゃんだ。
Oh boy. Look out, Rika. Rika-chan had finally returned after changing into her shrine main outfit, and Reina transformed into take it home mode the moment she saw it. And then she shoved me out of her way.
巫女服姿のリカちゃん、最強にかいい。お持ち帰り。レナ、苦しいのです。
Hey, I warned you, Rika. You should have ran while you had the chance.
リカちゃんってフルデの？久しぶりだね。で、ミオンちゃん？
今は近づかない方がいい。命削られるから。
After walking to Natsumi-chan for a while, she went back to her family. Apparently she's serving as a sort of guide for her group of friends. Incidentally, I invited them to join in on our club activities, but the girl with the pigtails shot down the offer. Chisato! Why would you do that? She responded, we're on a mission to incite romance between two lovebirds. I had no idea what she meant, but Reina, Shion, Rika-chan, and even Mion all nodded their heads like they were convinced. What did it mean?
Yeah. リカちゃんにケイチ君 君たちも来てたんだね。
Fancy seeing you here, Akasaka.
あ、
Oh, hey! You brought the kid! Is your wife here too? When I turned toward the source of that voice, I found Akasaka standing there. Beside him was a fine-looking young lady who was likely his wife, yep, and a cute little girl. I still like how they can't be bothered to make a sprite for his wife, considering how important a character she is to him. And yeah, they have no problem making one for even for Miyuki. Yeah. Speaking of cute things, uh-oh. Akasaka, guard your child! Run, Miyuki, run!
君
レナ、ちょっと待て。
シャラップ。この子はレナが言っただけだよ。はう、お持ち帰り。
No, Reina! She's the child of a super cop! You won't survive!
だから、うちのみゆきに何を。
What the hell? Akasaka-san tried to take back the girl he called Miyuki, but Reina splendidly fought him off. What? What? Akasaka! You're supposed to be Super Cop! Surely you can handle even the likes of Reina! Akasaka-san is supposed to be a detective from public security, isn't he? How on earth can Reina beat him down so handily? Yeah, I'll say! She should have been the one to fight off the mountain dogs in Chapter 8, not Akasaka, if she's this deadly.
それよりも間違いなく公務執行妨害なのです。にえ？じゃあこの人警察の人なの？
女子学生に倒されるようじゃ日本の治安も心もとないですね。
Oof, shots fired. Although I wonder if you can really put cute mode Reina in the same category as schoolgirls. Shots fired! Wouldn't the monster category be more appropriate? The shots are still being fired. And the child is still choking.
お姉ちゃんくらい。
Reina was running wild, or maybe I should say about to explode, but we eventually managed to pin her down and set Miyuki-chan free. Poor Miyuki. Akasaka-san seemed shocked that he was knocked out by a teenage girl, so he drooped his shoulders and headed toward the medical tent of his wife. Why weren't you helping, milady? And then, Miyuki-chan.
お姉ちゃん強いんだね。みゆきも強くなりたい。どうやったらパパでも倒せるようになるか教えて。
Oh my... Oh my god. This is just too adorable even for me. Poor
もちろんいいよ。
Poor Akasaka. Your child wants to take you down a peg.
コツはまず腰のひねりと拳を繰り出した時に体重を乗せて手首をえぐり込むように。
Oh dear, she's teaching him teaching her how to throw a proper punch. And in no time at all, she had developed a misguided master/apprentice relationship with Reina. I mean, who had ever seen two girls teaching one another martial arts in the middle of a festival plaza? And to make it worse, Akasaka-san's wife said, "Raise her as a strong girl," before entrusting the girl to us, so Reina was being unusually enthusiastic. Nobody is on Akasaka's side. That is just sad. I'm sad.
しっか かしあれだけの目にあっておきながら無邪気というか肝が据わっているというか将来有望だね。なんとなく私あの子とは不倶戴天の関係になりそうな気がします。
Gee, I wonder why. Well, Reina and Miyuki-chan are having fun, so I guess it's okay. But I do need to keep an eye on them to make sure Reina doesn't actually take her home.
というわけで行ってみようか。恒例の綿流し祭、参加者6人だから6強爆投。
みゆきも参加していいの？
Miyuki-chan made a wide-eyed expression like she was trying to add the numbers up, then got confused. Well, I guess that's a normal reaction. But the grand prize, Unable to Read the Situation award, still goes to Mion.
おめでとうみゆきちゃん。今日ひなみ沢にやってきた幸運をたたえ、一日部活体験の栄誉を与えよう。
部活って何？
よくぞ聞いた。我が部とはつまり複雑化した現代社会に鋭いメスを入れて活動する実践的かつ植物的なものにこそ価値を見出して飽くなき努力と探求を惜しまない。
I think you should just go ahead and stop yourself right here, Mion, because these grandiose speech of yours I think is going to fly over Miyuki's head. She's awfully young, you know. I don't think she's going to grasp half of the stuff that you're going to try to throw at her. As usual, Mion's explanation made no sense. I mean, how can you expect a little girl to understand something that complicated? Thank you!
お気の毒ですが、このひなみ沢に戻ってきて最高。そして最低の思い出を持って帰ってもらいますよ。
Ain't that the truth? Shion licked her lips as she said that with a dark, deep atmosphere, and then donned a wicked smile.
レナは弱いからいじめないでほしいな。仲良くやろうね。
You mean like how you were not tormenting a defenseless little Miyuki just a minute ago, Reina? And then, when she looked up with watery eyes, she saw the pale flame burning in Reina's eyes. Yeah, it's definitely pale, alright. I can definitely agree with you there. She's skilled, very skilled, and extremely terrifying.
じゃあ、みゆきは何をすればいいの？
Miyuki-chan still had no idea what was going on. But I thought it was rather impressive that she could endure this dreadful environment without bursting into tears.
つまり、みんなでゲームして遊ぶ部活なのです。
Leave it to Rika-chan to give a proper explanation. But who would believe it and believe that at this point?
裏を返せば、サトコの代わりにみゆきで遊ぼうという意味にもなりますが。
I don't know. Miyuki doesn't look like she could set up a mousetrap to save her life, let alone any of the stuff Sadako can come up with. She casually and elegantly said something egregious.
みゆきちゃん、あのさ。
Of course, I felt guilty for letting an innocent little girl get involved in this. And I wanted to advise her to go back to her parents right away. But my back was trembling because I could feel the terrifying atmosphere coming from behind me. Looking back, the four of them all remained silent, but they were still pressuring me with their sharp glares. Come on, Keiichi, don't let this gaggle of women intimidate you. Grow a spine. Let your balls drop. Draw the line in the sand and say, nay! And those eyes were speaking to me. Don't you understand?
どうしたの、お兄ちゃん。
いや、なんでもないんだ。ごめん。
What he really means to say, Miyuki, is that his balls have not dropped yet. So good luck. Good friggin' luck, because you're gonna need it. I'm sorry, Miyuki-chan. I don't want to sacrifice myself because you are a coward.
とりあえずシンプルにポイント制でいくよ。終わった後の総合点で勝敗を決定。
Well, that's a fairly orthodox system.
で、ビリーには罰ゲーム。
わかりやすすぎるわ。
Is she taking no consideration for beginners?
さあ、部長さん、号令をよろしく。
たく、そんじゃ行くぜ。六強爆投。
The battle over the festival stalls started on my command, and the commotion attracted the attention of most of the festival goers. A takoyaki eating contest, shaved ice slurping, ring toss, shooting, you name it. Nobody was saying anything directly, but things were heating up because every one of us was seriously fighting to win. And everyone involved was having a wholehearted great time, even the people watching us. As a first-timer, Miyuki-chan was confused at first, but she gradually swung around and recovered her pace, and she was having a blast. In fact, she was doing such a great job she even bested us in the shooting game. Reina even said, "That's my #1 apprentice." How? Well, she does grow up to be a pretty nice shot. Rika-chan didn't seem all that interested in competing with a younger girl, so she was looking out for her in a sort of older sister role too. When Akasaka-san came back to pick her up, Reina was seriously crying and shouting, "Let's play together again," as she saw her off.
前原くん、そろそろ時間だ。よろしく頼むよ。
It's time for me to shine now, huh?
はい、わかりました。任せてください。
お、ケイちゃんいよいよだね。口先の魔術師の本領発揮、楽しみにしてるよ。
もう少しいい応援の言葉はないのか。なんだ口先の魔術師とは。せめて計算マジシャンとでも呼べっての。
ますますうさんくさいのです。紅茶好きの司令長官さんですか？
それじゃあケイちゃん、私は屋台パーラーへ向かいますから。売り上げ勝負でこっちが勝ったら、前にお姉にプレゼントしたフランス人形、私にも買ってもらいますからね。
待て、あれはタダでもらったから遠慮なくやれたが、買うとなると別問題だ。高いんだぞあれは。
ああ、ケイちゃん、なんかその言い方気に入らないね。ならケイちゃんが負けたら、私にはそれ以上のプレゼントを要求する。
Alright, whatever, sure, okay.
それ以上ってなんだろう。
Is it a wedding ring, perhaps?
ひょっとして婚約指輪とか？
I see Reina and I are of one mind right now, and that makes me very uncomfortable for me to say. Oh! Cheers came flying from all around. Oh, here we go. Hey, this has nothing to do with all of you.
ここで公開愛の告白ですか
？We've already been through that, and it wasn't even an actual public confession of love either. You just all made it into one against our will.
まったくお熱いですね。違う。別にそういう意味じゃ。
ミーの自爆なのです。ミー。
No, she didn't self-destruct. She just stuck a foot in her mouth. Hers.
指輪ってどんなだろう。ダイヤ？ルビー？それともオリハルコン？
How much would an Orichalcum ring cost, I wonder?
最後のは実在じゃねえ。
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I wonder how much it would cost. If it's not real, how can I measure its wealth or worth, rather? Excuse me.
せめてプラチナといえ伝説の武器でも作る気か。 ていうか、そんなの学生身分で買えるわけねえだろ。
Well, you're not going to be a student forever, Keiichi.
というわけでこの勝負は今後のケイちゃんの台所事情に大きく関わってきますので頑張ってくださいね、お兄さん。
You're all merciless and I hate every one of you. Let's get started!
こら待て、勝手に決めるな。
The auction immediately began with my emotions still fired up from earlier. The pressure and embarrassment got to me in the beginning, so I made a lot of little mistakes. Come on, my boy, your wallet is on the line! But the people watching me shout my sales pitches were bursting into laughter. They were so curious, they had to stop and look. And they were enjoying it, so I was able to get back into my usual flow. And as I gradually got used to this role, I started recommending products to customers and selling them intelligently, one after another. There were supposed to be so many products up for sale, but they were all sold in no time at all. And across the way, Shion's shop was a great success as well. As expected, customers who had heard of Angel Mort but were hesitant to step inside the store were surprised to find just how delicious the cakes actually were. I almost said the cakes were ridiculous. And the low-priced crepe-wrapped cakes targeted at children sold out in an instant. The store manager was overjoyed by his success even beyond his expectations, and he was proud to say that he'd take this great achievement into consideration for future product plans. And yet, it's such a pity that Sako wasn't able to attend this time. I'm definitely going to tell her all these fun stories when she wakes up. And we'll make it even more exciting next year, so Sako will be able to keep smiling forever. Her friends didn't say anything, but they all made that vow in their hearts. And of course, that goes for me too. It turned purple. A purple moon is an ominous sign indeed. At least in this universe. It was unbelievable. No, maybe he just didn't want to believe it. Even as he ran away, somewhere in his heart he wanted it to be a mistake. He ran through the dark mountain trail, relying on the faint moonlight and delicate breeze to guide him. The pursuer was waving a searchlight around trying to find him, and his handiwork was far too intense for an amateur. Thanks to that, it gave the fleeing man an easier time finding his way, but the reflected light also got in the pursuer's way. Okinogi sighed, and laughed himself for thinking something so impertinent. Maybe he got too personally involved with Takano-san and Irie, and forgot that his original job was to monitor them. And this wretched sight was the result. He thoroughly lamented his soft-heartedness. Intervention from public security officials, and misappropriation of funds allocated to the Irie clinic. He was planning to make a cursory inquiry to Rika-chan's casual doubts. But when he arrived at his destination, he found a fact so shocking that he couldn't even put his astonishment into words. Disturbing movements were happening within Tokyo. Movements that, by all rights, should never be happening in Hinamizawa. And Mio Takano, when he learned the truth, he thought it was a mistake at first. Apparently, Takano-san had chosen to walk down the road to destruction. He was thinking about it. Strictly from common sense, it couldn't be described as anything but treason. However, he changed his perspective and gave it another thought. What if the higher-ups in Tokyo were using this act of defiance as part of a power struggle? And what if Takano-san is aware of that and receiving orders from one of those higher-ups? There's a connection. Everything that seems strange at first fits together nicely once all the puzzle pieces are assembled. And the result of that is a catastrophe that will wipe out all of Hinamizawa. It's a ritual dedicated to the magnificent god, Takano.
私を殺すできるかしら、二郎さん。
Her voice lingered in his ears, echoing in the back of his mind as he ran through the dark, quiet mountain path. Well, I didn't think you'd end up learning the truth about everything that was going on this fast. It was just before the Watanagashi dedication ceremony. Takano-san invited me to the inside of the ritual storehouse that nobody had ever seen before, so I went to the recesses of the Furude Shrine grounds of her. Before doing so, I turned toward her while she was excited and had a sparkle in her eyes, and decided to ask her a question.
高野さん、正直に答えてほしいんだ。君は何を企んでいる？
企む？どうしたの、二郎さん。突然変なことを聞いて。
ここしばらくの君のことを調べさせてもらった。高野さん、この前電話で話していた女性、あれは誰だ？
誰と言われても、電話でお話しする女性なんて山ほどいるわ。一体誰のことを指しているのかしら。
She pleaded ignorance to the bitter end. Still, I noticed Takano-san unconsciously avert her gaze any time I looked her in the eyes, so I could tell that the question had hit the mark and she was unsettled.
とぼけないでほしい。東京の本部で特定の勢力が最近妙な動きをしていることはすでに調べをつけてある。その一端と君が接触していることもね。
さすが優秀な方ね。ますます惚れ直したわ。
Takano-san suddenly caught her breath and turned a sideways glance this way while sweeping her hair back. I could tell she was looking down on me and trying to provoke me. But that mysterious aura was what attracted me to her in the first place.
ねえ、二郎さん。私、あなたが好きよ。
話をそらさないでくれ。
いろいろな男と付き合ってきたけれど、野心も野性味も私には合わなかった。あなたのような固くて真面目な人が一番私にはぴったりの人だった。だから私のすべてを受け止めてもらいたい。高野美代の本当をすべて理解してもらいたいの。
何を理解しろと言うんだい。
Takano-san chuckled and shrugged her shoulders at that question. There was a dazzlingly alluring and eerie radiance shining from her narrow eyes. It seemed like I could see my reflection in them, so I put my strength into my feet to keep them from subconsciously slipping back.
いよいよなの。もうじきなの。私のずっと見続けてきた夢が叶う日がもうすぐやってくるの。
夢だって。
ええ、二郎さんには何度か話したことがなかったかしら。神と等しき力を手に入れ、神と同格の存在となってこの世に君臨し、そして愚かしくも無力な人間たちに神の罰を下す。素敵でしょう。そしてそれはもうすぐ実現する。私の手によってね。
I couldn't keep up with Takano-san's enrapturing story, so I simply stared vacantly. But I suddenly came to my senses when I realized the story had derailed, and I interrupted to express my thoughts.
君のやろうとしていることは自己欺瞞と自己陶酔の塊だ。僕は管理の立場としてそれを容認するわけにはいかない。だから頼む。今すぐ思い直して計画を中止してほしい。
管理の立場ならあなた自身はどうなのかしら。
え？
Hinamizawaの研究を3年以内に打ち切れと一方的に通告されて、そしてその理由が 自分たちの懐を温めるため、私の研究、そしておじいちゃんの研究を過剰に誇ってひけらかすつもりはない。
I don't know. You seem awfully proud of them to me, considering the length that you're willing to go for, go through, in order to prove their validity, as we've seen in the main story proper.
それでもひたすら人の善意を信じて、いつかは報われると身を削る思いを重ねてきた私の気持ちを、あなたにだけは分かってもらえると思うのは私の傲慢かしら。
高野さん。
二郎さん、もう止まれないの。坂道を下る機関車と同じで、動き出したらもう止まることはできない。
Watch me. I'll stop it.
私はHinamizawa症候群の研究に自分の全てをかけてきた。それを金のことしか考えられないクズどものエゴで潰され、私はもう空っぽなの。だとしたら最後くらい、私にだって自分の夢を叶える機会があっても不公平じゃないと思うのだけど。
Yeah, well, the problem is that opportunity of yours involves slaughtering an entire village of innocent people. So yeah, I'd say it goes a bit beyond unreasonable for you to accept it.
そのために多くの命を踏み台にしてか。
結局ね、人間はいつも一人なのよ。自分の欲望を満たすためなら正義とか倫理なんて平気な顔でドブに捨てるわ。それは歴史が証明している。違うかしら？
Well, I'm no historian, so I reject living my life that way. Thank you very much.
そして歴史に名を残してきたのはほとんどそんな人たち。正直者はバカを見る。よく言ったものよね。
I'd rather be a fool and have a clear conscience than be the exact opposite and remembered throughout history, if that's the logic you want to go with.
高野さん、落ち着いて考え直してくれ。君は少なくとも僕の知っている君はそんな人ではないはずだ。
あらあら。二郎さん、そんなあなたの青臭いところとっても好きよ。でも残念、私は元からこういう人間なの。たくさんの血を吸いすぎてこの手は血みどろう。その匂いとその感触と味を知ってしまったらもう戻れない。戻るつもりもないけどね。
高野さん。
Just then, I heard an unnatural rustling among the trees, and I sensed a damp breath clearly distinct from the wind.
まさか、高野さん。
ねえ、二郎さん。私はね、あなたのことがとても好き。黙って協力してくれたら、報酬はもちろん思いのまま。もしあなたが望むなら、私のすべて、そして残る時間を、それだけはあなたにだけ私のことを話したように。だから時間はかけてもいい。考えてくれないかしら。
残念だけど返事は一つだ。君を見逃すわけにはいかない。
そう、やっぱりね。残念だわ。本当に残念。
ケイちゃん、はいこれ。
Run for your life, man. That's all I can say. Just run for your damn life.
お、サンキュー。
Mion handed me a lump of cotton, and I squatted down on the edge of the riverbank to gently set it adrift. Tons of little snowball clumps were drifting down the dimly lit river, giving the air an otherworldly atmosphere.
いいな、こういうのって。
Mion gently responded yeah to my casual mutterings. Then, she gently knelt down beside me and held my hand tight.
お疲れ様、ケイちゃん。おかげで盛り上がったよ。
みんなのおかげだ。俺一人じゃ何もできなかったしな。
それでも、ここまで盛況に仕立てたのはケイちゃんがいたからだよ。それはみんなわかってる。もちろん、私だって。
Mion looked directly at me and smiled as she said that. Those few words completely blew away all the stress and fatigue from all the running around I've been doing the past few weeks.
さ、ケイちゃん。
なんだ？
一人で抱え込まないでね。
I remained silent and gazed at the flowing water. Mion leaned her cheek against my shoulder while squeezing my hand tighter.
シオンからちょっとだけ話聞いた。ケイちゃんがなんかすごく大きなことを調べて回ってるって。リカちゃんと一緒に。
Yeah, I have. It's very important stuff.
私たちにも言えないことなの？
ごめん。
I couldn't say anything more than that. There is indeed a conspiracy lurking behind Hinamizawa that we're pursuing, and also Takano-san's true identity. It would be so much easier and more encouraging if I could talk it over and ask for help. In fact, I considered sharing the details of Mion more than once or twice in the past. But even so, our enemy is strong and cunning. Our movements are hard to notice when we're acting on a small scale, but as our number of allies increases, so does the chance that our foe's watchful eye will detect something, making our chances that much smaller. Well, I can understand the logic behind that line of thinking, but it is risky. And to think about it another way, it could be irresponsible to get everyone involved. So I can't say anything yet. We still don't have enough information, so this isn't the right time to confess.
わかった。信じるよ、私。
ミオン。
I turned toward Mion, and she was giving me a warm smile.
ケイちゃんが秘密にするってことは、私たちのことを思ってなんでしょ？だったら、私は何も聞かない。たとえどんなことがあっても、私はケイちゃんの選んだ方法を信じるし、ケイちゃんが正しいって誰にでも胸張って言ってみせる。
I wish people like you were more common in real life, Mion. Or at least people that are willing to show this much trust and support.
すまん。
でもね、ケイちゃん。約束して。助けが必要になったら、絶対に遠慮なんかしないって。私はいつでもケイちゃんの味方だし、最高の仲間のつもりでいるんだからさ。ね。
ああ、わかった。
After hearing that, Mion gave me a firm nod and said, "All right," then got up and wiped dirt from her knees. Then she gave me a strong pat on the shoulder and a cheerful, energetic smile.
期待してるよ、院長さん。じゃあね。
Mion waved her hand as she said that, then ran over to the old folks gathered on the side of the riverbed. I was really thankful for Mion's concerns, and very sorry about it.
Keiichi?
A voice called me from behind. Looking back, it was Rika-chan.
ミーは何か言ってましたか？
いや、ただ俺たちのことには気づいてるみたいだった。俺たちが言い出すまでは知らないふりをしてくれてるんだろうな。
過剰に動けば高野たちが計画を早めるかもしれません。消極的かもしれませんが、今は赤坂と富武の動きを待つ時だと思うのですよ。
だな。
We continued to stare at the surface of the water. The cotton balls flowing down the river had already drifted downstream, turning the river back to normal.
行く川の流れは絶えずして、しかも元の流れにあらずか。
何ですかそれは。
北条記だ。大昔のエッセイってやつかな。時間の流れは止めどもなく続いているが、その中にある出来事は一つとして同じものがないって意味だよ。
Well, even if the events are never exactly the same, history does have a habit of rhyming quite a bit.
そうなのでしょうか。
Rika-chan had a lonely smile on her face as she threw those words out.
幾千度、もう正確な数を忘れてしまうくらい同じ時を過ごしてきましたのです。でも重ねれば重ねるほど同じことの繰り返しが続くようになって、運命が無限に存在するという言葉は、それを経験したことのない人のたわごとだと僕は思いますですよ。
Well, I guess given your particular experience with fate, can't really fault you for thinking that.
そうかもな。でもそれはリカちゃんが同じ選択を選び続けた結果じゃないのか。
ずいぶん決めつけてくれるのですよ。圭一に僕の何がわかるのですか？
Out of the blue, Rika-chan raised her head and spoke like she was offended.
同じ選択なんてそんな面白くもないことを、嬉しさも驚きも二度続けば面白くないのです。だから僕はずっと変わった何かが起こることを楽しみにしていました。いつも意外性を求め続けていたのですよ。ですが圭一、運命の分岐は無限ではありませんのです。僕はそれを知ってしまったから。
それこそリカちゃんの決めつけだろ。違うか？
I insisted further to Rika-chan.
リカちゃんはこの世界が今までに経験したことのないものだと前に言ってたよな。だったらまだ運命は打ち止めじゃない。可能性は有限かもしれないが、全てを見つけたと思うのは早すぎる。だからもう少し頑張って探してみようぜ。
先に見えるのが袋小路だったとしてもですか？
それを決めたのは誰だ？運命でも神様でもない。それはリカちゃん自身じゃないか。だから信じてみようぜ。まだ選択が残ってるかどうかさ。
そうですね。かけてみようと思いますです。もうこれが最後でしょうから。
I barely smiled from the depths of my heart. Even if there's no helping it, Rika-chan just can't break the habit of sounding desperate. At least, if we could find that girl who was always together with Rika-chan, that Hanyu girl, then the situation could change just a little more. Just then. When the moon emerged from the clouds and the surrounding area was a little more brightly lit, as Rika-chan gazed at the flowing river, I heard her catch her breath. It's either Tomitake running down the river for his life, or it's Hanyu.
ん？どうしたんだ、リカちゃん。
嘘、そんな。じゃあ今ここにいる僕はまさか。
リカちゃん？おい、リカちゃん？
She was trembling. Her whole body was shaking and her eyes were open so wide I could make out her expression even in the dark. And as Rika-chan clung to her head and stepped back. And after about 3 steps, she bumped into a large stone that she didn't realize was there and let out a brief scream as she fell to her butt on the spot.
大丈夫か、リカちゃん。立てるか？怪我してなきゃいいんだけど。
When I rushed to her side and offered her a hand, Rika-chan just absent-mindedly stared at it. For some reason, she had tensed up and gotten stuck in a state of not knowing if she should reach her hand out or not. Her small frame was still lightly trembling. Her face looked a little pale, and her eyes were out of focus.
本当に大丈夫か、リカちゃん。まだ監督も残っているはずだから、すぐに呼んで。
平気なのです。このまま家に帰ってゆっくり休みま。
Suddenly, Rika-chan jumped to her feet, like she was repelled by something, and she turned toward the mountains behind her with a sharp look in her eyes. Then she held her breath and vigilantly watched the surrounding area, like she was searching for signs of something. And then...
富竹が危ない。え？一緒に来てください、ケイイチ。富竹が追われていますのです。
Interesting how she was able to sense that. I wonder what this could mean. How much time had passed since then? Fortunately, I was able to escape too deep in the mountains before the mountain dogs could catch me, but the pursuers still managed to encircle me and cut off my escape route. And to make things worse, the fireworks of the festival served as an effective camouflage to hide the sound of gunfire. They weren't resorting to rapid fire, but they had already fired off several shots, and I was in extreme danger of getting hit. Escape may no longer be possible. In which case...
せめてリカちゃんには。
That was all I can think about as I ran through the hilly countryside, desperately searching for a way out. My frantically moving legs suddenly came to a halt as my thoughts turned to despair, because the scene spread out before my eyes was a swamp. Onikufuji swamp? Yup.
諦めないで。気持ちが折れたらそこでおしまいよ。
今の音は。
As we climbed the dark mountain trail, guided by the light of a small flashlight, along the way, we heard a loud and distinct splashing sound coming from the direction of the valley. That's right. There should be a small swamp just a short ways ahead of here. I've never seen it up close, but the adults have warned me that it's dangerous and I shouldn't go near it. And considering how loud that splash sounded, I doubt it was just something as benign as a rock falling in. Yeah, it sounded more like a person falling in.
そんな富竹がまさか。
Rika-chan ran back down the trail we were heading up, then charged up a steep slope to peek down from a nearby cliff. But even when we aimed our flashlights, the darkness beyond was so deep we could hardly see anything at all. In fact, I couldn't even see my feet on the ground, so one wrong step and I might end up tumbling to the bottom of the valley.
富竹！返事をしてくださいなのです。
危ないリカちゃん。それ以上は本当に落ちるぞ。
Even so, Rika-chan was dead set on shouting down the cliff, so I desperately tried to hold her back. Rika-chan seemed to finally come to her senses. She bit at her lip with a painful look on her face, and plopped down in the spot while clinging to her head.
この下に富竹さんが。
わからないのです。でも感じましたのです。富竹がこの山の中を逃げ回っていて、そして。
I braced myself against a tree trunk to stand up, then turned off my flashlight to be safe and took a look around. Indeed, I could see unnatural lights flashing at irregular intervals as they moved between the trees, which corroborated what Rika-chan was saying. I felt the need to go investigate, but we were unarmed, and what's more, Rika-chan and I were not used to running on dimly lit mountain roads. It's no use. There's nothing more we can do here. After making certain that the lights were heading away from us, I knelt down in front of Rika-chan and said, "Let's head back."
このままここにいたって何もできないぜ。一旦戻って赤坂さんたちに相談しよう。それでいいかな、リカちゃん。
わかりましたのです。ここは一時撤退なのですよ。
As she said that, Rika-chan rose to her feet with a reluctant look on her face. But just then... Uh-oh. That moment. It happened so fast that neither Rika-chan nor I could even process it. We couldn't understand what was going on. But the ground beneath our feet crumbled and fell. Rika-chan's small body flew into the air and seemed to be swallowed by the darkness. When my thoughts finally began to catch up, I realized that Rika-chan disappeared right in front of me. And then, the ground in front of me had collapsed, leaving a massive hole leading to the darkness.
リカちゃん、リカちゃん、リカちゃん、リカちゃん!
I shouted so much it made my voice hoarse, but I received no response. Only silence and a freezing chill that coursed through my entire body.
ターゲット、電気銃で狙撃。ただし、沼に落ちて目標喪失。
腕が悪いわね。発砲ができないとはいえ、夜間訓練くらいは経験しているものと思っていたけど。
Takano brushed her hair back and called out to Okinogi behind her. She sensed an apologetic sigh coming from behind, but she didn't want to turn around to see it.
申し訳ないです。まさか取り逃がして山を捜索するとは全員想定していなかったものですから。
ありとあらゆる不測の状況に対応してこそ軍人の務めよ。自衛隊から選抜されてきたとは思えない愚拙ぶりだわ。
Even if they weren't allowed to fire their guns, Tomitake managed to escape when he was surrounded and heavily outnumbered. And even though they tried firing wired stun guns, he was able to dodge them like some kind of superhuman. No doubt, Takano was completely astonished herself.
ウグイス4から8、継続して沼を捜索。9から16は周辺を紹介します。他の隊員への追加のご命令を要請します。
タホ！目標を見つけるまで全員任務は継続に決まっとうが、何のための捜索隊ね。すっとしゃんとせっか。
待って。
Takano suddenly smiled like she had come up with something and called out to stop Okinogi. Her cold smile combined with her black uniform reminded Okinogi of a witch, and he couldn't help but shudder.
行方不明ならそれでもいいわ。念のために見つけておいたあれ、ちょうどいいから使っちゃいましょう。
Backup plan.
あれですか。しかし各校にはどのように伝えるおつもりですか。
必要なのはつなぎ役の始末とHinamizawa症候群の見せしめよ。彼の遺体を確認するのは後日でもいい。それとは別にたたりに会う人間があれば問題ないわ。時間がないの、急ぎなさい。
They had prepared an insurance policy just in case Tomitake changed his mind, but they weren't planning to use it. With that in mind, Takano gave the order with a particularly cold-hearted expression. You're gonna try to go after Rika right now, aren't you? Okinogi silently nodded, then took a few people out of the room with him.
もう戻れないか。
大丈夫？大変だ。
どうかしたんね。青い顔して。なんか見つかった？
サンサには内密で、ウグイスからの報告で R がフルでリカが富武の落ちた沼に落ちたようだ。現在も捜索中だが、こちらの行方も発見できず、急ぎどう対応すべきかの命令をこうと言ってきてるぞ。
それでは今日はここまで。
I think I'll go on for just a little bit longer. Alright.
委員長？
キーツ！レイ！
I lost myself for a moment there, so I was slow to react. At any rate, everyone responded goodbye in unison, so somehow my commands must have gotten through to them. I forgot to say cleanup in there. Anyway, my body seriously feels heavy today. There were so many things bothering me that just thinking about them made my head feel like it was going to burst. Not to mention, last night was the very first time that I was truly scared to death and tasted the depths of the darkness.
ケイチ君、今日はお疲れなのかな？
俺は元気だぞと言いたいところだがすまん。かなり眠い。
Even as I answered her, my eyes were fogged over and my eyelids felt heavy. Plus, a slight yawn leaked out immediately after saying that. I'd like to get a good night's sleep if at all possible. But right now, it's time for club activities. If I don't put some grit into it and wake myself up, I'll be setting a bad example for everyone in the class.
大丈夫？昨日は大活躍だったからね。今日は帰って休んだ方がいいんじゃない？リカちゃんも今日は休みみたいだしさ。
I lightly turned my head and absentmindedly gazed behind me. Rika-chan's desk was vacant today. Just as Mion said, she was absent all day today.
やっぱりリカちゃんも無理してたんだね。
まだ怪我が治ってないのに、あれだけの演舞を最後までやり遂げたんだからね。疲れが抜けきらなくても当然だよ。もっとも、まさか終わった後に倒れて気を失っちゃうとまでは思ってなかったけどさ。
Yeah, I sure as hell didn't expect her to drop like a rock either. And yet it happened anyway.
熱出して寝込んじゃったんだよね。お家に一人ぼっちでいても大丈夫かな？
まあ心配っちゃ心配だけどね。とはいえ監督もおとなしく休ませてあげるのが一番の薬だって言ってたし、あんまり構いすぎるとかえってリカちゃんが気にしちゃうかもしれないしさ。
そうだよね。
なあミオ。
何ケイちゃん？
いや、なんでもない。
I swallowed my words and turned away from Mion, who went, "Hmm?" as she tilted her head, then let out a sigh. After all, there is something wrong. After the performance, Rika-chan told us she wasn't that tired, and she did the Watanagashi ritual at the river with us, right? This conversation between Mion and Reina clearly didn't line up with my memory of the night.
でも疲れて眠そうにしているケイチくん、かいいよ。 ちで一緒に寝る？お布団一緒でどうかな？
Now, now. I'm not sure if my wife-to-be would appreciate that all that much.
レナ、自分で何言ってるか分かってるか？
See?
大丈夫だよ。レナが優しく癒してあげるから。
Anyway, I tried hard to think about what happened last night. And more than that, to me the events of the night were so unbelievable that it seriously felt like a dream.
リカちゃん。
You know what? I have a sneaking suspicion this could go on for a while after all, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and end things here for now. Something big is definitely right around the corner. I can feel it. I'm hoping that whatever it is, it involves Hanyu. But I guess we'll find out. I guess we'll have to find out next time if that's the case or not, or if there is some other Deus Ex Machina at play here. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. I'll see you all next time. Take care.